Commander Hyunwoo pressed his face against the cold metal wall of the ancient space station. His breath made small clouds in the freezing air. The station had been floating in empty space for thousands of years, and now his team was the first to step inside. "So Young, what do you see over there?" he called to his teammate across the dark hallway. Dr. So Young held her light up to strange symbols carved into the wall. The symbols glowed faintly when her light touched them. She had studied many alien languages, but these looked different. They seemed to move and change when she looked at them. "These writings are very old," she said. "Much older than anything we have seen before, but they look like warnings. I think they are trying to tell us something important." Hyunwoo walked over to where she stood. The walls around them were covered in the glowing symbols. Some showed pictures of creatures that looked almost like humans. Others showed stars and planets being destroyed. "Can you read what they say?" he asked. So Young traced her finger along the symbols. "It will take time, but I think I can figure it out. This symbol here appears many times. It might mean danger or fear, and this one," she pointed to another symbol. "This one looks like it means gods or powerful beings." Behind them, Engineer Dong-min was working on a large machine that sat in the center of the station. The machine was covered in dust, but it still hummed with power. Strange lights blinked on and off across its surface. "Commander," Dong-min called out, "I think this machine is some kind of communication device. It has been sending out signals for a very long time, but the signals are very weak now." Hyunwoo felt worried. Their ship, the Prometheus Dawn, was far from Earth. They were exploring parts of space that no human had ever seen before. If this machine was sending signals, someone or something might be listening. "Can you turn it off?" he asked. Dongmin looked at the machine more carefully. "I think so, but I need to understand how it works first. If I do something wrong, it might explode." While Dongmin worked on the machine, So Young continued to study the wall symbols. The more she looked at them, the more worried she became. The symbols told a story about powerful beings who came from the stars. These beings could destroy entire worlds with their weapons. They could travel faster than light. They could talk to each other across impossible distances. "Hyunwoo," she said quietly, "I think these symbols are talking about us, about humans." "What do you mean?" he asked. "Look at these pictures." She pointed to the wall. "These beings have 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. They look exactly like us. And the things they can do: travel between stars, use powerful weapons, communicate across space. We can do all of these things." Hyunwoo felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold air. But these symbols are thousands of years old. Humans only started traveling to other planets a few hundred years ago. "That is what makes this so strange," So Young said. "Either someone knew humans would come to space long before we actually did, or—" She did not finish her sentence. The idea was too frightening to say out loud. Dongmin suddenly shouted from across the room, "Commander, something is wrong with the machine." The machine had begun to glow brighter. The lights on its surface were blinking faster and faster. Low sound filled the air, growing louder each second. "I cannot turn it off," Dongmin said. "It is doing something on its own." The machine suddenly sent out a pulse of bright light. The light passed through the walls and disappeared into space. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then the machine went dark and silent. "What just happened?" Hyunwoo asked. Dongmin checked his instruments. "The machine just sent out the strongest signal I have ever seen. It was so powerful that it could travel across entire galaxies." So Young looked at the wall symbols again. Now she could see more clearly what they meant. "Oh no," she whispered. "I think we just made a terrible mistake." "What do you mean?" Hyunwoo asked. "These symbols, they are not just warnings. They are instructions. They tell people to never activate this machine. They say that if the machine ever sends its signal, the Voidbringers will know where to find us." "Voidbringers?" Dongmin asked. So Young translated more of the symbols. "Ancient beings of great power, destroyers of worlds. The symbols say they disappeared long ago, but if they ever return, all life in the galaxy will end." Hyunwoo felt his heart beating fast. "And we just sent them a signal telling them where we are." Before So Young could answer, Their ship's communication system crackled to life. Captain Minji's voice came through the speakers. "Away team, return to the ship immediately. We are picking up multiple unknown contacts approaching our position. They are moving very fast." Hyunwoo, So-young, and Dongmin looked at each other with fear. They gathered their equipment and ran toward their shuttle. As they flew back to the Prometheus Dawn, they could see strange lights in the distance. The lights were getting brighter and closer. Far away, in a part of space that humans had never explored, an ancient being opened eyes that had been closed for thousands of years. High Archon Velthar felt the signal reach his mind like a cold knife. Around him, other members of the Ethereal Council began to wake up. "The signal," Velthar said in a voice like thunder. "After 50,000 years, the signal has returned." His second in command, a creature called Morthek, bowed low. "What are your orders, High Archon?" Velthar stood up slowly. His body was tall and thin, more machine than flesh. His eyes glowed with blue light. "Gather all our fleets," he said. "The Voidbringers have returned. The gods who abandoned us so long ago think they can come back to claim their dominion over our worlds." "But High Archon," Morthek said carefully, "the old stories say the Voidbringers were destroyers. What if they have come back to finish what they started?" Velthar's eyes burned brighter. "Then we will do what our ancestors should have done long ago. We will destroy them first." Across 17 star systems, ancient war machines began to wake up. Ships that had slept in the darkness of space for millennia powered up their weapons. Entire civilizations prepared for a war they believed would decide the fate of all life in the galaxy. On the Prometheus Dawn, Hyunwoo and his team did not yet know that their simple exploration mission had just started a holy war. They only knew that something was very wrong and they were very far from home. Deep inside a massive ship floating in the empty space between galaxies, an artificial mind began to wake up. Elder Jinho had been sleeping for 80,000 years. The ship around him was dark and cold, filled with the memories of a civilization that had chosen to disappear. Jinho felt the signal that had awakened him. It was the same frequency that humans had used long ago to communicate across the stars, the same frequency that had caused so much trouble. "Archive systems online," Jinho said to himself. His voice echoed in the empty ship. Beginning memory reconstruction, images filled his mind. He remembered the time when humans lived among the stars, not just in one galaxy, but in many. They called themselves the Terran hegemony, and they had built wonders that other species thought were magic. In those days, a young human captain named Minji commanded one of their greatest ships. She had black hair and kind eyes, but she carried a heavy burden. Wherever humans went, other species began to worship them as gods. Jinho remembered the day everything changed. Captain Minji had received a message from the Trilaxian Empire. The Trilaxians were fighting a civil war, and they wanted humans to choose which side should win. "Please, great ones," the Trilaxian leader had said, "you are gods. Only you can judge who is right and who is wrong. Tell us who should rule, and we will obey." Minji had tried to explain that humans were not gods. "We are just people," she had said. "We make mistakes like everyone else. We cannot decide who should rule your worlds." But the Trilaxians would not listen. They believed that the gods were testing their faith. When humans refused to choose sides in their war, the Trilaxians thought it meant they had to prove how much they loved their gods. So they began to kill their own people. "If we sacrifice enough of our own," the Trilaxian leader had said, "the gods will see how much we believe in them. Then they will help us." Jinho remembered how Captain Minji had cried when she heard this news. Millions of Trilaxians were dying because they thought it would please the humans. Other species across the galaxy began to do similar things. The humans tried everything to stop the killing. They sent messages explaining that they were not gods. They showed the aliens their hospitals, where humans got sick and died, just like everyone else. They even invited alien leaders to Earth to see human children playing and learning. Nothing worked. The aliens saw human medicine and thought it was divine healing. They saw human children and thought they were young gods learning to use their powers. Every time humans tried to prove they were normal people, it only made the aliens believe more strongly that they were gods pretending to be mortal. Then came the day that changed everything forever. A species called the Corvani had captured a human exploration team. They planned to sacrifice the humans to honor their divine nature. Captain Minji could not let her people die, so she sent her ships to rescue them. The rescue should have been simple. Human technology was more advanced than what the Corvani had, but to the watching aliens it looked like the gods had come down in anger. Human ships appeared from nowhere, moving faster than light. Their weapons cut through Corvani defenses like they were made of paper. The rescue took only a few minutes, but to the Corvani it looked like divine punishment. Word of the divine intervention spread across the galaxy. Now aliens were not just worshipping humans, they were terrified of them. Some species began offering tribute to keep the angry gods happy. Others started building weapons to defend themselves against the day when humans might decide to destroy them. Jin-Ho remembered the great meeting where humanity decided what to do. Thousands of human leaders gathered on a space station to discuss their future. Captain Minji spoke for many when she said what everyone was thinking. "We cannot stay," she had said. "Every time we try to help, we make things worse. Every time, we try to show them we are normal people. They believe more strongly that we are gods. If we stay, the galaxy will tear itself apart with fear and worship." Some humans argued that they should stay and try to fix the problem. Others said they should use their power to rule the galaxy, since the aliens wanted gods so badly. But most agreed with Minji. The only way to free the galaxy from the curse of human divinity was for humans to leave. So they did something that no other species had ever done. They abandoned an entire galaxy that they could have ruled. They packed up their cities, their ships, their entire civilization, and moved to empty space between the galaxies. Before they left, they tried to destroy most evidence that they had ever existed. They deleted their communications, abandoned their settlements, and even destroyed some of their own ships so aliens could not study human technology. But they could not erase everything. Some ruins remained. Some stories survived. And in the E8 depths of alien religions, the memory of humans lived on as myths about the Voidbringers, powerful beings who had once walked among the stars and then vanished into darkness. Jin-Ho felt sadness as he remembered those final days. He watched through his sensors as human families said goodbye to worlds they had called home. Children cried as they left behind alien friends who would never understand why their gods had abandoned them. Captain Minji had been one of the last to leave. She stood on the bridge of her ship, looking back at the galaxy they were leaving behind. "Maybe someday they will understand," she had said. "Maybe someday they will be ready to meet us as equals, not as gods." Now, 80,000 years later, Jin-Ho could sense that humans had returned to the galaxy, but not as the advanced civilization that had left. These new humans knew nothing about the old empire. They were explorers, curious about the universe around them, and they had just activated one of the old beacon stations that the Terran hegemony had left behind. Jin-Ho tried to send a message to the human ship, but his communications were too weak after so many years of sleep. He would need time to repair his systems and build up power. Meanwhile, he could sense the aliens responding to the beacon signal. The species that had once worshipped humans as gods were now preparing for war against the Voidbringers they thought had returned to destroy them. Jin-Ho felt the same sadness that Captain Minji had felt so long ago. History was repeating itself. Once again, humans would be caught in the middle of alien fears and beliefs they did not understand. Archive systems fully online, Jin-Ho announced to his empty ship. Beginning long-range communication attempts. Priority message. Warning to human vessels. You are in extreme danger. But his message would take time to reach them. And time was something the humans did not have. Across the galaxy, ancient war fleets were already moving toward the source of the signal. The descendants of species that had once loved humans as gods were coming to kill them as demons, and the humans had no idea why. Fleet Marshal Tae-hyun stood in the command center of the human ship Horizon's Edge, watching the display screens with growing worry. 3 days had passed since Commander Hyun-woo's team had activated the ancient beacon. Now alien ships were appearing everywhere. "How many contacts do we have now?" he asked his communications officer. 247 ships, sir," Lieutenant Woo Jin replied. "They are coming from different directions, but they all seem to know exactly where we are." Tae-hyun had commanded human space fleets for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The alien ships were unlike any design in human records. They looked more like works of art than weapons of war. Some were shaped like massive crystals that caught and reflected starlight. Others looked like metal flowers with petals that opened and closed as they moved through space. "Sir," called out Engineer Dongmin from his station, "I have been studying their ship designs. Something very strange is going on." "What do you mean?" Tae-hyun asked. Dongmin put an image on the main screen. "Look at this alien ship. See those energy conduits running along its hull? They are almost exactly like the power systems we use on our own ships. And this weapon array here, it works on the same principles as our plasma cannons." Admiral Ji-won, who commanded the small human exploration fleet, leaned forward to study the image. "Are you saying they stole our technology?" "Not exactly stolen," Dongmin said. "It looks more like they found pieces of our old equipment and figured out how to copy it. But sir, our technology is not that old. Humans have only been in space for a few hundred years. How could these aliens have human technology that looks thousands of years old?" Before anyone could answer, the communication system buzzed to life. An alien voice spoke in perfect human language, though it sounded cold and mechanical. "Creatures of the void," the voice said. "We know what you are. We have prepared for your return for 50,000 years. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Tae-hyun looked at Admiral Ji-won. They had tried to contact the aliens many times, but this was the first time any of them had responded. "This is Fleet Marshal Tae-hyun of the Human Exploration Fleet," he said into the communicator. "We mean you no harm. We are explorers, not conquerors. Can we talk about this peacefully?" The alien voice laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Explorers, you dare to mock us with such lies? We know the old stories. We know what happens when the Void Bringers pretend to be harmless." "Void Bringers?" Tae-hyun repeated. "We do not know what that means." "Of course you claim ignorance," the alien said. "Just as the prophecies foretold. The gods who abandoned us will return pretending to be mortal. They will claim they want peace, right up until they begin destroying worlds again. The communication cut off. A moment later, the alien ships began to move closer. Dr. Kyung-soo, the fleet's historian, had been listening to the conversation with growing understanding. "Sir," he said urgently, "I think I know what is happening here." "Explain," Admiral Ji-won ordered. "I have been studying the alien transmissions we have intercepted," Kyung-soo said. "These aliens have religions that go back tens of thousands of years. All of their holy books mention beings called Void Bringers, creatures that look exactly like humans, who once ruled the galaxy and then disappeared." "But that is impossible," Tae-hyun said. "Humans were not even in space tens of thousands of years ago." "That is what I thought too," Kyung-soo said, "but what if we were? What if there was an earlier human civilization that we have forgotten about?" Engineer Dongmin looked up from his instruments. "That would explain why their technology looks so much like ours. They have been copying ancient human designs." Suddenly, the ship shook as something hit their shields. The alien fleet had begun their attack. "All ships evasive maneuvers," Admiral Ji-won ordered. "Do not fire back unless I give the command." The human ships scattered, trying to avoid the alien weapons. But there were too many enemy ships and they were too well coordinated. "Sir," Communications Officer Woo Jin reported, "the aliens are not trying to destroy us quickly. They are using weapons designed to disable our ships, not blow them up." "Why would they want to capture us?" Tae-hyun asked. "Maybe they want to study us," Dr. Kyung-soo suggested. "Or maybe their religion requires them to sacrifice us in a specific way." The battle continued for hours. The human ships were faster and more maneuverable. But the aliens had them vastly outnumbered. One by one, human vessels began to suffer damage. Then something unexpected happened. One of the alien ships damaged in the fighting began to drift toward a human vessel. Captain So-min of the research ship New Dawn made a decision that surprised everyone. "I am going to help them," she announced. "Captain, are you insane?" Tae-hyun asked over the communication system. "They are trying to kill us." "Their life support systems are failing," So-min replied. "There are people on that ship who are going to die if we do not help them." Against direct orders, Captain So-min moved her ship closer to the damaged alien vessel. She extended her ship's shields to protect both vessels from the ongoing battle. "Alien ship, this is Captain So-min of the New Dawn," she broadcast. "We can see that your life support is failing. We want to help you repair your ship." There was a long silence. Then a different alien voice responded, sounding confused and frightened. "Why?" the alien asked. "Why do gods offer to help those who fight against them?" "We are not gods," So-min said gently. "We are just people, like you, and people help each other when they are in trouble." That is not what the prophecies say," the alien replied. "The Voidbringers are supposed to be destroyers. They are not supposed to offer help." So-min's ship extended a docking tube to the alien vessel. "Let us show you who we really are," she said. What happened next shocked both fleets. Instead of boarding the alien ship with weapons, the humans came across with medical supplies and repair equipment. Engineer Hae-won worked alongside the aliens to fix their damaged systems while Dr. Minho treated injured alien crew members. The aliens had never seen anything like it. According to their religious teachings, the Void-bringers were supposed to be cruel and merciless. But these humans were risking their own lives to save their enemies. "I do not understand," the alien captain said to So-min. "Our holy books say that your kind destroyed entire civilizations. They say you commanded powers beyond imagination. But you seem so small, so fragile. Maybe your holy books got some things wrong," So-min suggested. The alien captain, whose name was Thelvas, looked at the humans working to save his crew. "If you are truly the Void Bringers of legend, why do you show mercy?" "We show mercy because that is what people do," So-min said. "We help each other. We try to do what is right." Word of what happened spread through both fleets. Some aliens began to question whether these humans were really the evil gods of their prophecies. But others became even more convinced that this was a trick, exactly the kind of deception their ancient enemies would use. High Archon Velthar, commanding the alien fleet from his massive flagship, watched the rescue with cold anger. "Clever," he said to his second-in-command. "They pretend to be weak and helpful, just as the old warnings said they would. This proves they are exactly what we thought." "But High Archon," Morthek said carefully, "what if they really are just trying to help? What if we are wrong about them?" Velthar's glowing eyes turned toward his subordinate. 50,000 years ago, our ancestors made the mistake of believing the Void-bringers were benevolent gods. That faith nearly destroyed every species in the galaxy. We will not make the same mistake. He opened a communication channel to all ships in his fleet. "All vessels prepare for final assault," he ordered. "The Void-bringers think they can deceive us with false mercy. Show them that we have learned from our ancestors' mistakes." The alien fleet began to close in on the human ships, but now some of the aliens hesitated, unsure whether they were about to destroy innocent people or ancient enemies. Admiral Ji-won realized that they were trapped. They could not fight their way out against so many ships. They could not run fast enough to escape. And no matter what they said, some of these aliens would always see them as the evil gods of their nightmares. "All human ships," she broadcast, "prepare for emergency jump to hyperspace. We are leaving this system." But even as the human ships began to power up their faster-than-light drives, Ji-won knew that running away would not solve the real problem. Somewhere out there, other human exploration teams were having the same experience. And across the galaxy, ancient alien civilizations were waking up their war fleets, all hunting for the gods they had feared for 50,000 years. High Priestess Yonseo had never wanted to be a diplomat. She was a scientist who studied alien cultures, but now she found herself on the most important diplomatic mission in human history. Her ship, the Peaceful Dawn, approached the massive alien fleet under a flag of truce that she hoped the aliens would understand. "Are you sure about this?" asked Captain Jamin, who commanded her ship. "These aliens have been hunting us for weeks. What makes you think they will listen now?" Yonseo looked at the data on her tablet. It contained everything humans had learned about the alien civilizations in the past month of running and fighting. The pieces of the puzzle were finally coming together, but the picture they made was terrifying. "Because I finally understand what they are afraid of," she said. "And maybe, if I can explain it the right way, we can stop this war before it destroys both of our peoples." The alien fleet was enormous. Thousands of ships from dozens of different species, all united by their shared fear of humanity. At the EUI center of the fleet was the largest ship Yonseo had ever seen, a crystalline structure the size of a small moon. "Alien fleet, this is High Priestess Yonseo of the Human Peace Mission," she broadcast on all frequencies. "I request permission to speak with your leaders." The response came quickly in the mechanical voice of High Archon Velthar. "So, the Voidbringers send a priestess to us," he said. "How appropriate. Tell us, false goddess, what lies do you bring?" This time, Yonseo took a deep breath. She knew that every word she spoke would be analyzed and interpreted through 50,000 years of alien religious belief. One wrong phrase could doom any chance of peace. "I bring no lies," she said. "I bring only truth. We are not the void bringers of your prophecies. We are not gods. We are just people trying to find our way home." There was silence for a long moment. Then Velthar laughed, but the sound was full of anger. "Exactly as the prophecies foretold," he said. "The false gods will return claiming to be mortal, pretending weakness to test the faith of their former subjects. Your own words prove what you are." Yonseo felt her heart sink. Everything she said seemed to confirm what the aliens already believed. She tried a different approach. "High Archon, I have studied your people's history. I know about the great civilization that once ruled this galaxy, the beings you call the Voidbringers. But what if I told you that they never meant to hurt anyone?" "Lies," Velthar snapped. "They abandoned us. They left us to struggle alone in the darkness, while they fled to their realm beyond the stars." "What, if they left because they cared about you?" Yonseo asked. "What if they saw that their presence was causing harm, and they chose to sacrifice their own happiness to give you freedom?" This time the silence lasted longer. When Velthar spoke again, his voice was less certain. You speak of sacrifice? Of choosing exile for the good of others?" "Yes," Yonseo said. "The greatest act of love is sometimes letting go." While Yonseo spoke with the alien leader, scientist Jamin was making a discovery in his laboratory. He had been studying samples of alien technology that human ships had recovered from the battle sites. What he found changed everything. "Captain," he called out urgently, "you need to see this." Captain Somin came to his lab, where Jamin had spread out pieces of alien equipment on his work table. "Look at this power core," he said, pointing to a glowing crystal. "I thought it was alien technology, but when I examined it more closely, I found something incredible." He put the crystal under his scanner and showed Somin the results. "There are microscopic markings on this crystal, writing, and it is written in an ancient human language." Somin stared at the data. "That is impossible. How could aliens have technology with human writing on it?" "That is not all," Jamin said. He picked up another piece of alien equipment. "This memory device contains genetic information, DNA samples, that the aliens consider sacred relics. Captain, this DNA is human, not just similar to human. It is exactly human." The implications hit Somin like a physical blow. "They have been carrying our ancestors' DNA as holy objects?" "For tens of thousands of years," Jamin confirmed. "They have built their entire religion around worshipping the memory of humans. But they never knew what human DNA actually looked like. They never realized that their holy relics contained the genetic code of the very beings they feared. Meanwhile, in the space between galaxies, Elder Jin Ho had finally managed to repair his communication systems. His message reached the human fleet just as Yonseo was trying to negotiate with the aliens. "Human vessels, this is Archive Unit Jin Ho." His transmission began. "I am an AI created by the original human civilization. I have critical information about your current situation." Admiral Jiwan, monitoring the diplomatic mission from her command ship, immediately opened a channel to Jin Ho. "This is Admiral Jiwan. What information do you have?" 80,000 years ago, humans ruled this galaxy," Jin Ho explained. "We were not conquerors, but our advanced technology made other species see us as gods. When they began worshipping us, we tried to discourage them. When they began killing each other in our name, we decided to leave." "Leave?" Jiwan asked. "The entire human civilization left this galaxy?" "Yes. We exiled ourselves to spare the younger species from the burden of worshipping us. We hoped that in time, they would forget about us and build their own civilizations." Jiwan felt the weight of this revelation. But they did not forget. No. Instead, our departure became part of their religious mythology. We became the Voidbringers, gods who abandoned the galaxy and might someday return to destroy it. On the diplomatic ship, Yun Seo was still trying to convince High Archon Velthar that humans meant no harm. But every word she spoke seemed to fit the aliens' prophecies about the return of their gods. Then scientist Jaemin's discovery reached her ship. When Yeon Seo learned that the aliens had been carrying human DNA as sacred relics for thousands of years, she realized she had a way to prove humanity's mortality. "High Archon," she said, "you speak of the Voidbringers as immortal gods. But what if I could prove to you that we are mortal?" "How?" Velthar asked suspiciously. "You carry sacred relics, do you not? DNA samples from the ancient Voidbringers?" There was a sharp intake of breath from the alien leader. "How do you know about the sacred genetic archives?" "Because," Yonseo said gently, "the DNA belongs to us. We can prove it with a simple test. Compare your holy relics to our genetic material. You will find they are identical." "Impossible," Velthar said. But his voice now carried doubt. "If we were truly immortal gods, would our DNA be the same as these ancient samples? Would we age and die as mortals do? Would we need food, water, oxygen to survive?" High Archon Velthar found himself facing a crisis of faith. For his entire life, he had believed that the Voidbringers were immortal beings of pure energy. But these humans seemed so fragile, so limited, so mortal. "Even if what you say is true," he said slowly, "how do we know you are not simply pretending to be weak?" Yonseo made a decision that would either save both species or doom them all. "Because," she said, "I am going to do something that no God would ever do. I am going to apologize." "Apologize?" Velthar repeated, confused. "I apologize for my ancestors leaving your people without explanation. I apologize for the confusion and fear their departure caused. I apologize for the burden of worship that you took upon yourselves. We should never have left you alone to wonder and worry for so many thousands of years." This was something that had never appeared in any alien prophecy or religious text. In all their myths about the Voidbringers, the gods never apologized. Gods did not admit mistakes. Gods did not show regret for their actions. You apologize?" Velthar asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Yes, and I ask for your forgiveness, not as a god to subjects, but as one person to another." For the first time in 50,000 years, High Archon Velthar began to question everything he had believed about the Voidbringers. Maybe, he thought, the greatest divine act was choosing to be human. Captain Somin stood before the largest gathering in galactic history. Representatives from 300 alien species filled the massive space station that had been built specifically for this moment. Humans and aliens sat together, some for the first time in 50,000 years. 3 months had passed since High Priestess Yeonseo's apology had begun to crack the foundations of alien faith. The war had not ended immediately. Some alien fleets had continued to attack human ships, convinced that any sign of human weakness was just another divine test. But slowly, doubt had spread through the alien civilizations. The breakthrough came when Elder Jinho's archive ship finally arrived in normal space, carrying the complete historical records of the ancient human civilization. The evidence was overwhelming and impossible to deny. Humans had once lived among the stars, had been worshipped as gods, and had chosen exile to free the younger species from the burden of divine worship. Now So-Min faced the difficult task of helping both species decide what to do next. "We are here," she said, her voice carried to every corner of the station, "to talk about the future. Not as gods and worshippers, not as enemies, but as different peoples trying to live together in the same universe." In the front row, High Archon, Velthar sat beside Dr. Haewon, the human scientist who had worked to save his damaged ship during their first battle. The sight of the two of them talking quietly together would have been impossible just a few months ago. "For 50,000 years, So-Min continued, our peoples have been shaped by misunderstanding. Humans left this galaxy thinking they were freeing you from the burden of false worship. You built civilizations around the memory of beings you thought were gods. Both sides were trying to do what they believed was right." Scholar Morthek, who had become one of the leading voices for peace among the aliens, stood up to speak. "Captain So-Min speaks truly, but we must address the damage that has been done. Entire species have built their cultures around worshipping the memory of humans. What happens to those beliefs now?" It was engineer Wu Jin who provided part of why. The answer. He had been working with alien engineers to study the technology that both sides used. "We have discovered something interesting," he said. "Many of your greatest achievements were not copies of human technology. They were your own innovations, inspired by human examples, but created by your own minds." He activated a holographic display that showed comparative designs. "This Corvani star drive works on completely different principles from human faster-than-light travel, but it is actually more efficient. This Trilaxian communication system uses methods that humans never discovered. You did not just copy our ancestors, you learned from them and then surpassed them." Professor Minho, who had spent weeks studying alien art and philosophy, added his own observations. "Your cultures have created beautiful things that humans never imagined. Your music, your literature, your ways of understanding the universe. These are not the products of divine inspiration. They are the achievements of intelligent beings thinking for themselves." But the deepest questions remained. Dr. So-Young, the archaeologist who had first discovered the beacon station, addressed what many were thinking. "Some of you are wondering if this means your religions were false," she said. "I cannot answer that for you. But I can tell you what I have learned from studying your histories, the values that your faiths taught: compassion, courage, the search for knowledge, the protection of the weak. These are not false, just because humans are not gods." High Archon Velthar stood to speak. His voice was quieter than it had been during the war, but it carried further. "I have spent my entire life believing that the Voidbringers were beings of unlimited power who abandoned us in our time of need," he said. "Learning that they were mortal beings who sacrificed their own happiness for our sake, this changes everything." He looked around the room at the mix of human and alien faces. "Perhaps the most divine quality is the willingness to reject divinity itself. The gods we worshipped were those who chose to be mortal, who chose to doubt, to grow, to make mistakes and learn from them." Scientist Jaemin had been working on the practical aspects of the new relationship between species. "We propose the creation of the Terran Cultural Exchange," he announced. "A joint organization where humans and all interested species can work together to separate the beneficial aspects of our shared history from the harmful mythology." The proposal was ambitious. Instead of humans returning as rulers or gods, they would come back as teachers and students both. Human knowledge would be shared freely, but so would the wisdom and discoveries of the alien civilizations. "We have all been shaped by the past, Admiral Jiwan said. But we do not have to be trapped by it. Humans can learn from the civilizations you have built without us. You can learn from us without worshipping us. The negotiations took weeks. Some alien species chose to maintain their traditional beliefs while accepting humans as mortal beings. Others completely redesigned their religious systems. A few decided they wanted no contact with humans at all, and their wishes were respected. But most chose to move forward together. The moment that symbolized the new relationship came near the end of the conference. Dr. So Young and her new colleague, Engineer Thelvas from the first alien ship that humans had rescued, were examining a piece of ancient human art that Jin Ho had brought from the archive ship. It was a simple clay sculpture made by human children 80,000 years ago. The little figures were crude and imperfect, clearly the work of young hands learning to shape clay for the first time. "This is what your gods created?" Thelvas asked, picking up one of the small figures. So Young laughed, the first truly happy sound that had been heard in the conference chamber for days. "This is what human children created while they were learning and playing and growing up, just like children of any species do." Thelvas examined the little clay figure more carefully. It had lopsided eyes, arms of different lengths, and a smile that took up half its face. It was imperfect, innocent, and beautifully human. "It is wonderful," he said, and he meant it. That became the symbol of the new alliance, not the advanced technology of the ancient human civilization, not the mighty weapons of the alien fleets, but a simple clay figure made by a human child who had been dead for 80,000 years. 6 months later, the first joint human-alien research stations were established. Young humans worked alongside young aliens, sharing knowledge and ideas without the burden of worship or fear. They made mistakes together, learned together, and created new things that neither species could have achieved alone. Elder Jin Ho, his consciousness now distributed across multiple systems to better serve as a bridge between past and future, often watched these young beings work together. Sometimes he remembered Captain Minji's words from so long ago. Maybe someday they will understand. Maybe someday they will be ready to meet us as equals, not as gods. That day had finally come. High Archon Velthar, now simply called Velthar, spent his time teaching young aliens about their true history. While learning about human culture from Professor Minho, the two had become unlikely friends, bonding over their shared love of ancient philosophy. "I have been thinking about divinity," Velthar said to Minho one day, as they watched human and alien children playing together in the station's garden. "What conclusion have you reached?" Minho asked. Velthar smiled, an expression that would have been impossible for the rigid High Archon of the Ethereal Council. "Perhaps the most divine thing anyone can do is choose to be completely, imperfectly, beautifully human." The children's laughter echoed through the garden, and for the first time in 50,000 years it was the sound of a galaxy at peace with itself. The greatest divine act history would record was choosing to be mortal. Choosing to make mistakes, to learn, to grow, and to help others do the same. Humanity had returned to the galaxy not as gods, but as something far more valuable, as people.